Hello everyone. So in one of my live shows maybe a month or two ago, I did a little thing called Top 20 Tips for Truthers. And it was a bit of a rough draft, but I thought it was fun to do, and I think it's relevant to a lot of people who do research into these type of things. Just basically some tips and hints of things I've learned over the decade doing this that could help others deal with this information better. Now, the first one on my list was be careful who you tell this stuff to. Now, I know that seems like a strange thing to say, because obviously spreading the truth shouldn't be held back, right? You should tell everybody everything all the time, of course, because this stuff cannot be hidden and everyone needs to wake up. But it's not that simple. You've got to think about yourself sometimes, and the impact admitting that you think about these type of things has on the minds of other people and the way they view you. And I'm not saying you should care about what other people think necessarily, but what I'm saying is you need to be careful about how it will impact your life if certain particular people know that you're into this type of thing. So let me give you a story, an example of something that happened to me, which made me learn this lesson the hard way. So about 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, probably 8 years ago now maybe, I had just left university and I needed a job. And I got a job. I got a job working in a supermarket, stacking shelves at the bottom of the ladder, And that was great for me, because it meant by day I could do a job I didn't have to think much about and got a relatively decent wage for, and then I could go home and make videos. And that was my life, and I was happy, And people knew what I did, and I didn't hide it. I was a conspiracy theorist, I was a Christian, I made videos about weird, trippy things, and everyone, had a laugh about it and whatever, and I went along with it. I didn't care what other people thought, that's just who I was, and that was fine. These are my work colleagues at the end of the day. They weren't my friends, but whatever, it didn't matter. And then I decided to go for management after 3 years. And I got the job. I got promoted. I got to be a manager. It meant I had to move stores in the process, because as it goes, you can't really be a manager of people you used to work with on the same level. It's not easy for those people to consider you a manager so easily and take orders from you, if that's the case, when they've worked with you for so long at the same level. So they thought wise to move me to a brand new store for a fresh start, so I could be seen from the new perspective of Paul the manager rather than Paul the shop floor assistant. So things went well for about, let's say, a year. About a year or two, give or take, as this manager, in this position. And during this time, I was going through a phase on my channel where I was really going heavily against the whole paedophilia thing that was going everywhere, the virtuous pedophile thing, the pushing to normalize this on the kids and trying to humanize the adults who think that way. And I was furious, and I was quite up in arms about the whole thing. I was also getting swept up in the whole left-right paradigm of the politics behind that particular time period. And, I was getting angry and passionate and perhaps put my focus in the wrong places. So I made a few videos which were zealous and angry and passionate, And I was still being a manager on the side, and I hadn't told anybody I worked with at this new store that I was somebody who made videos about, truther topics. And for good reason. I didn't want anyone to know, because people would view me differently if I did. And I was kind of scared of my new boss. He was relentless for being within the company for so long. People kind of feared him in a little bit, but also respected him in a strange way. It was a weird relationship people had with this guy. But I just knew it was best the less people knew about this, the better, But then somebody came to work at my store who I used to work with when I was a store assistant at the old store. And lo and behold, this person, this young lad, maybe was he 18 at the time, very young, naive lad, he came in and he started telling everybody about me and what I do on my YouTube and the things I talk about and who I was in terms of my opinions on things. And the cat was out of the bag. People started asking questions, and it caught the attention of my new boss. my new boss went ahead and watched my channel. Now, one day, I just had a feeling. I woke up one particular day. Could have been any day, I don't really know now. And I knew. I just knew. I'm going to get pulled into the office today, and they're going to talk to me about my channel. I just knew. I knew it was going to happen. I don't know why. I woke up with just this feeling. And I went in, and the atmosphere was weird. It was just weird. My boss was treating me differently. And then at the end of the shift, I get pulled into the office. My intuition was correct. And in there is my boss, the store manager, and the area manager. And they're there trying to treat me with kid gloves, and it turns out my boss had watched my videos, some of my most recent ones at the time, where I got pretty zealous and angry about certain movements that were happening, which were, glorifying a particular heinous, disgusting topic, which I was very angry about. And I said a few things in there which probably weren't clever, but I was angry, and I was passionate about the issues that were happening in the agendas that were being pushed on us. And as a result, he ended up saying to me, this is a multicultural, diverse company, and at the moment, we're just trying to protect you. If an employee who is, let's say, of a certain religious faith or a certain sexuality or gender finds your videos and complains about you, we're not going to be able to defend you. So as a manager, you can't have this YouTube channel. And I panicked in that moment, and in a moment of cowardice, I capitulated and I shut it down, because I just got this position. I needed the manager's experience. The money was good, and I was in heavy amounts of debt, and it got to the point where it's like, okay, I need to stop the channel, and that was that. But my workplace had basically said, you can't have this YouTuber channel with these opinions and be a manager. Now, to the point of this is my advice. Be careful who you tell about this stuff. Be careful who you let know that you know these kind of things and think about these kind of things. Your work colleagues are not your friends. They will throw you under the bus the moment things get a little bit too spicy, a bit too heated, and a bit too controversial. They won't have your back, and especially management. If they think you are a threat to their bottom line and earning money, then you're a problem in their eyes, and they won't hesitate to remove you in order to make sure that bottom line stays stable. So please, my first set of advice for anybody who gets into this stuff, this is one of many videos I'm going to make giving different pieces of advice, but the first advice I can give anybody who gets into this stuff: be careful who you tell. Not everybody is your friend or has your best interest at heart. Anyway, thanks for listening, and God bless.